The search continues and tales emerge. Cody Stoots on the scene at the Senior Bowl. It is SNL, Landry Locker, Cody Stoots with you. Cody, real quick, before we get into some of the emerging tales from the Senior Bowl, as well as kind of a rumor about CJ Stroud and Bobby Slowik, which I found kind of interesting. I actually just dropped a video about that on the locker room. What's going on at the Senior Bowl? Did you see D'Amico? Did you see Nick Caserio?
I did see D'Amico Ryans. I did see Nick Caserio. And those two guys, when they were standing next to each other watching the Senior Bowl practice, they did not shut up. They were constantly talking to each other. Nick Caserio talks with his hands more than any human being I've ever seen in my entire life.
Not Nick Saban.
It's up there, man. Like it gives him a run for his money. What I liked about what I saw just from a positioning standpoint, I felt like they were in the best position of any of the coaches or GMs that I could recognize or notice that were out there. Like they sat over in the corner of the O-line, D-line 101s to the point where they could look at an O-line, D-line 101, then they could quickly look over at the running backs and the safeties and the linebackers, and then they could look down the field at the cornerbacks and the wide receivers. I thought they had the best view of anybody that was there on the field, and they were constantly scanning and talking, and Caserio's got a little mini laminated roster that he was flipping back and forth and looking and pointing. And then last year, I only remember seeing, I think, 3 members of the Texans, Nick Caserio and a couple members of the scouting department. I saw Nick Caserio, D'Amico Ryans, and then 3 additional members of the scouting department as well. So, or 2 additional members. 3 additional members. 3 additional members of the scouting department, plus Nick Caserio, plus D'Amico Ryans in Mobile, talking to players, looking at them, watching practice. And let me tell you, there's some nasty D linemen here that I got to imagine D'Amico Ryans probably really enjoyed watching. There's a nasty D lineman here.
So you think they might be leaning D line? Is that so? You're gonna kill my offensive lean offense?
Oh no, they spent plenty of time watching offensive players. I'll give you this one little nugget just based on where I thought their eyes were going and who was in, and it was for the afternoon practice. It was the American team. I think they like Devin Neal from Kansas, the running back. And I'm
aware of his work. He's a good player.
I'll be chasing down Devin Neal this week to see if he talked to the Houston Texans. So, I
mean, they should be talking to every running back. I don't know when Neal is. Neal's probably a day 2, 3-ish type of guy, I would say.
So talking with some people who've been doing this longer than I have, going to Senior Bowls for much longer, covering the draft for much longer, they believe there are guys that'll go in the 5th round this year that would have been 2nd and 3rd round guys last year. That's how deep this running back class is. So there's value to be had, and there's certainly plenty of running backs to choose from, and they got a nice, good look at a lot of them today.
Yeah, I am very intrigued to see what happens. I'm intrigued by the combine as well. I know you got people covered. You got your observations. I'm sure you were taking those world famous Cody Stoots handwritten notes. Yeah, there you go.
Here.
A legal pad. There you go. FBI Cody Stoots. Here on SNL, Landry Locker, Cody Stoots with you. So the Texans interviewed a couple of guys yesterday. Do we want to start with the expected or do we want to start with the unexpected?
Let's start with the expected one first.
All right. So they interviewed Jerrod Johnson yesterday, current QB coach for CJ Stroud. Jerrod Johnson got an interview yesterday. This would be very, 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 very meh for me. And I know the guy personally. I know you know the guy too. Great dude, talented guy, can do a lot of things. I don't know how good of a job he did last year with CJ Stroud. I don't know how I separate what he did last year from what happened with the rest of the offensive staff. And for that reason, it's not about whether or not he's called plays before, but for that reason, this would be probably the biggest meh decision that the Texans could make. For me personally, no thank you to Jerrod Johnson.
If he got the job and was promoted from within, from quarterback coach to offensive coordinator, I would feel like they left something on the table in 2024. Why not try that in the midst of 2024 as you're disappointed with Bobby Slowik? It's an interesting interview because you bring him in and you say, hey, speak freely. what did you see that we didn't see that was going wrong? What do you feel like, is salvageable from the way we operated and the offense? And then he's got to explain his role and his association with some of the disappointing points of this offense, which is, hey, CJ Stroud's footwork, a little messy. Hey, CJ Stroud's confidence, a little shaken. Hey, CJ Stroud's decision-making took a little step back. Like, how much of that's on him? How much of that is he going to say, hey, actually, I did my job. CJ messed this up or Bobby messed this up. Like, it's a good information gathering interview because it also helps you fine tune how you want to approach the other interviews. Like, hey, we feel like this is wrong with the offense. How would you fix it? And then candidate B, C, D, E, whatever says, oh yeah, I do this or I do that, so on and so forth. So it's an interview. It's not an option that I'd like for them to go down. And it would be a pretty uninspiring choice, both from resume and his association with last year's disappointment in the offense.
I would say, just to summarize what you said, and I'm agreeing with you wholeheartedly, I think it's the most necessary interview. I think it would be the most unnecessary hire. That's how I would say it. It's the most necessary interview, but it's the most unnecessary hire. You have to gather that information. Anytime someone goes into a new building or they're trying to make a change, if it's a new boss, you've got to interview the current employees, even if you don't plan on bringing them back. You got to ask them what they think. They're going to air out their grievances. They might show some insight as to why things are bad or what some things are that you might want to do. They might give you some clarity that you might not have gotten otherwise. They're probably going to be very transparent for you. And maybe they can make a case as to why you separate them from that. So I think while I don't think that Jerrod Johnson would be my top pick, I think it is the most necessary interview to perform along with the other guys. Like if you can talk to Bill Lazor, whatever, just a little interview with him and an interview with Ben McDaniels or whatever the hell else, go ahead and do that. Get as much information, get them candid to where maybe their eyes are getting big and they're trying to figure something out. I think these are very necessary interviews to conduct, guys in the building, even if you have no desire to hire.
Yeah, you've got to find out from the people that were there in the offense, building it, putting it together, trying to make it work each and every week. Why did you feel like it went wrong? Why did it go wrong? And then find out as much as you can from all of those guys beyond just, hey, season's over. We'll talk to you here soon. Hey, come in here. Give me your pitch for why you're the guy. And then, hey, let's actually pick your brain about some stuff too. I like it. I like the way you put it.
On the super chat, Nate Davis says, loving the attitude going in the offseason so far. Even Stroud denied the Pro Bowl this year. Yeah, I think it's a good vibe. I mean, they're making changes. I think it's a really, really good vibe. That's intriguing. Also on the chat, Ronald Hadley says the only reason why Landry is saying no to Jerrod being a first-time play caller is because he knows fans would be against his boy McCown. Why would I give a rat's ass if fans are against McCown? If I was worried about fans being against McCown, I would have jumped off that train a long ass time ago, buddy. Like if I was, I don't know when fans were ever on board with Josh McCown. So that is some dumbass rationale right there, Ronald. I can promise you, I'm not worried about that. I just don't think that there's specific requirements as to hiring a coach. Like I don't have like a specific body of work. I think that experience can come in different forms, different manners. D'Amico's a former player. Some head coaches aren't former players. Some coaches have been defensive minded. Some have been offensive minded. Some have been special teams. But if you think I'm going to adjust what I say because I don't think fans are going to be on board, then my goodness, that would be that is, do you even locker room? Do you even SNL? Did you even?
Yeah, this man was the conductor of the McCown train.
But it was the most unpopular thing in the world.
He was the guy shoveling the coal into the furnace. Him and Nick Caserio were the only two guys on that train, and they had those big shovels, and they're throwing the coal in there as fast as they can.
Yeah,
try to get that train rolling.
Yeah, I can assure you that is an idiotic way to try to rationalize that. I Must Pandaline says, are we going to talk about the real news headline from today? We will. I'm assuming you're talking about the
you don't eat the entree at the beginning.
Yeah, we'll talk about that. I actually put out a video about that as well. But yeah, we'll look at the CJ Stroud what are we going to call this? It's not really a report. It's just kind of a
The Stroud story.
Stroud story.
The Stroud scuffle story.
Yeah,
the Stroud-Slowik scuffle story. The 4S.
The what?
The Stroud-Slowik scuffle story. The 4S.
The Stroud-Slowik
scuffle story.
Okay.
4S.
Yeah, we'll check it out. We'll pull it up and listen so that we can check that out. So Jerrod Johnson, no go on that. Then we have Syracuse offensive coordinator Jeff Nixon. I thought Sam Warren of the Houston Chronicle did a really good job of kind of laying down like some background as to what this guy is about. He's got some interesting history. My biggest takeaway here is I think the game has evolved and the gap has become so much smaller between NFL and college to where what he did in college does matter a little bit. I think it's obviously harder to do the exact same thing and duplicate the same style, but I do think it kind of translates a little bit. And Syracuse offense was much improved. And let's be honest, he also has some NFL experience. So
yeah,
this was an interesting candidate that I was actually pretty intrigued about, to say the least.
I got to be honest, I didn't know a lot about him. And as I did the research and as Sam put out some of that info and you go through and you look at some of the stuff that he accomplished, there's some stuff to like there. I mean, they're the number one passing offense in all of football this past season. They were 21st in scoring offense this past year. Now, the curious part of this was he's a former college running back. He's coached running backs before. His job before he was an OC was running back coach for the Giants. 126th in rushing.
They were throwing a lot. I mean, they were kind of using the pass as an extension of the run type of joint.
Yeah, but the funny part about that is LaQuint Allen from Syracuse here at the Senior Bowl. He had a really nice day today, and it's like, hey, why didn't they use that guy more? So it's like it all just kind of like came together here in the past 24 hours. Nixon called plays at Baylor. They got better each year. That he was calling the plays at Baylor under Matt Rule. He had a stint in the NFL where he was the interim play caller. Didn't go great, but that was the Panthers team that was falling apart. It's a really intriguing candidate. And look, he took a guy that a lot of people thought was a disappointing product in Kyle McCord, and Ohio State dumped him, said, see you later. We're going to go get a different quarterback. He transfers to Syracuse, and they have the number one passing offense in all of college football. And it's not like they did that at Western Kentucky or Toledo or something like that. They did it at the ACC. So, it's not the Big Ten, it's not the SEC, but it's a solid overall resume. And I mean, am I super excited if this guy's the offensive coordinator? Probably not. Am I disappointed? No.
Yeah, I'm intrigued by it. I'm more intrigued than Jerrod, but yeah, I don't know. Like as far as the run game, pass game balance, I think that would change if you have Joe Mixon.
Sure. Also, I mean,
who knows?
You've got Joe Mixon and Jeff Nixon. Like, come on, that's a lot going on there.
Mixon and Nixon.
Mixon and Nixon, Jeff and Joe, and
so who's next at OC for you? What's your wish list for who you'd like to see?
I mean, me and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are lockstep. They've interviewed Nick Caley. They also interviewed Dave Ragone, and Nick Caley is next up for me. I would like for them to interview Nick Caley, the tight ends coach and pass game coordinator for the Los Angeles Rams, previously coached in New England, as you pointed out the other day, is from the same college that Nick Caserio went to. So that's my guy, forward-thinking, inventive. I like tight ends coaches because they have to teach everything, receiving and pass blocking and run blocking, and be in tune with doing it on the outside, doing it in line. So there's a lot to like about Nick Caley. He's my hope, and the Buccaneers have already talked to him, and so and then it looks like the Jets have sort of zeroed in on their guy. So it's really Buccaneers versus Texans for play calling, offensive coordinator duties.
Well, now we have I think Ian Rappaport just threw out another name of someone that may have may have interviewed for the gig as well. Right as we're on the air. He said that the Texans, and I'm with you on like who I would like to see next. Bucs QB coach Thad Lewis has interviewed for the vacant OC job per Ian Rappaport. So who is Thad Lewis? I don't know a lot about his work, to be honest with you.
He's been coaching since 2018. This is his third year, he had the past 4 seasons with the Buccaneers, 21, 22, 23, and 24. He was an assistant wide receivers coach, and he's been a QB coach for 2 seasons, 23 and 24. Just so happens 2 pretty good seasons from the quarterback spot while he was there. He played for a variety of teams, including a little stint with the Texans in 2014.
Don't remember that one, to be honest with you.
2010 and 2017.
No.
Last time he was actually on a roster was 2016, though.
No, I will say this. This is kind of another element just in looking at maybe dream scenarios for the Texans. He was an offensive analyst under Chip Kelly at UCLA. So sometimes when you interview guys, you might not hire them for this job, but they end up taking jobs under other guys. He worked as an offensive analyst for Chip Kelly, I believe, for a couple of seasons at UCLA.
Yeah, you're correct.
So there you go. So maybe there's the Chip Kelly. If you're really hung up on Chip Kelly and you're wondering, hey, what could go on here? Maybe he's someone to keep an eye on as well. So he's worked under Bruce Arians. He's worked under Todd Bowles, or he worked under Bowles for sure. So he has some interesting experience, and he started his coaching career with Chip Kelly. So maybe if Chip Kelly comes here, maybe this guy ends up being on Chip Kelly's staff.
You want another fun Thad Lewis fact that I just discovered?
What's that?
Thad Lewis was a quarterback on the 0-12 Duke Blue Devils team in 2006. His offensive coordinator that season, in their second season as the Duke Blue Devils offensive coordinator, Bill O'Brien.
Damn, that was a long-ass time ago.
It was a long time ago. Bill O'Brien at Duke. Lewis eventually got coached up by Cutcliffe. David Cutcliffe, the Manning's go-to quarterback guy.
The Manning's basically their caddy.
Yep. Thad Lewis is my least favorite candidate we've talked about to this point.
Yeah, I think there could be more to it.
I'd rather them hire Gerard Johnson than Thad Lewis. I'd rather them hire Nixon than Thad Lewis. Rather than hire, obviously, Kelly Cayley, Dave Ragone.
Well, that's what Ian Rappaport had to say. So there we go.
Man, these
breaking news in here. Don't have like a strong take on old Thad Lewis, except I like the Chip Kelly connection.
Well, see, let's connect the Legos here. If Chip Kelly was the guy, Tampa gets a different offensive coordinator. Maybe they have a different quarterback coach. Maybe Chip Kelly wants Thad Lewis on his staff. So Thad Lewis gets let go in Tampa. Boom, he's in Houston.
Yeah, maybe. Who knows? Keep an eye on it. Chip Kelly. The dream is still alive for all you people.
Tampa's interviewed a much more impressive crew than the Texans have so far.
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of a pipeline, man. I mean, the last 2 years, their offensive coordinator's gotten a head coaching gig. I don't know if it's just a coincidence or what, but Baker Mayfield be getting coaches jobs. Maybe it's just that simple. I don't really know what to make of it.
Is Lewis going to interview for, I don't know, the vacant Tampa Bay Buccaneers offensive coordinator job?
Probably not.
Well,
he might need a job. Well, he might need a job. You know, like Thad Lewis might need a job, so he might be trying to get somewhere. Possible, if you think about it.
Yeah.
Maybe he sees the writing on the wall. Maybe he's trying to get a gig. Maybe they're doing him a favor. Who knows?
Maybe somebody in the organization was like, "Hey, we're not going to keep you. We're hiring this guy. Go try to get another job." He's like, "Okay." I thought it was intriguing that Rappaport said he had gotten many requests, and this is the first one he took. Shouldn't a guy like Thad Lewis take as many interviews as possible?
That sounds agenty to me. That sounds very agenty.
You are the ultimate agent BS detector.
Yeah, that just sounds agenty. So this guy is just turning down jobs, like turning down job interviews. Like, why?
He had so many interviews.
Yeah.
He couldn't even take them all. And then
Yeah,
he
that
said
doesn't-
yes to the Texans one.
Yeah, that doesn't make a lot of sense to me. I don't know what that would be
Thad
weird.
Lewis,
That
the
sounds
most sought after offensive mind in all of football.
sounds very agenty.
The best offensive mind.
So let's get to the report, the CJ Stroud, Bobby Slowik fight tale, as we kind of transition from the good old offensive coordinator search with Thad Lewis. So I guess Lance Zerline said this on 97.5. A Twitter user by the name of Robert Land posted this, and then I saw it from Houston Stressins, and then I saw Texans Cap say that he's been sitting on this forever, which I thought was weird. So this was the what are you laughing at? This was the tale. What is funny about that? Like, he literally said it. Cap thanks him. Thank you, Robert. Finally got some confirmation for this story. And I'm like,
yeah, I'm like
okay.
You don't want to. We sit next to him during games. You didn't want to mention that.
Yes, it was an interesting chime in by Texans Cap. I was like, thank you. Finally got a second source from this reference. But here was the tale from Lance on ESPN 97.5 talking about Bobby Slowik and CJ Stroud, how their relationship started. Now, how do y'all want to approach this? Do you want to do this like as a start and pause type of thing? Or what?
I say let it roll and see what we have at the end.
So okay, so let it roll and then go to the end. I will say this though, like this is kind of how I preface my video. Like, I think there's interesting dynamics. Like when guys leave, sometimes stories emerge. Sometimes that means that the guys are willing to talk a little bit more. Sometimes there's just not much payoff for putting it out there. Sometimes that's the case. Also, as far as like pre-draft, it's a lot of hearsay. A lot of stuff can get lost in translation. It's a completely different vibe. So I do think we should take that into account. But Lance obviously talks to a lot of people. This is what he said on ESPN 97.5.
I'll tell you the whole thing now that Slowik's gone. CJ Stroud came to visit the Texans, and Bobby Slowik was telling them, okay, they were watching stuff on tape. Now, before I tell you this, when CJ was at Ohio State, he really didn't talk to the OC at all. He didn't think he knew ball. This coming from somebody who knows CJ intimately. He didn't think the offense coordinator was very smart. So he would only talk to Ryan Day. Ryan Day was the guy who had to communicate with CJ, which I didn't love that, honestly, before the draft process. And it played into some of my thoughts on CJ in terms of coachability. What I heard was that he didn't like his communication was Ryan Day and not the offense coordinator. Okay, well, that's a little strange, but whatever. He comes into Houston. Bobby Slowik is trying to tell him some stuff. And CJ just says, oh, yeah, I know that we call this, whatever, XY switch, whatever it would be at Ohio State. And apparently, maybe it happened a couple times, and Bobby Slowik just kind of jumped him and said, I don't give a what you call it, Ohio State. That's college. This is pro football. And Bobby kind of got in his face about it, And CJ's not one to back down at all. And CJ, and I don't know if Bobby was testing him or I don't know what the deal was, but CJ jumped up and got back in his face. And it was very contentious. It had to be kind of broken up. And so when CJ went to his next draft meeting, I talked to the team where CJ went because I asked this team, hey, did you hear anything about this with CJ Stroud? And they said, oh, we asked CJ how his last visit went, which was Houston. And he said, terrible. I don't think I'll be going there. And people who train, like CJ's whole crew did not want him to go to Houston. And they didn't think he was going to Houston because it was he and Bobby got into it. And then CJ was drafted by Houston, which that's one of the reasons I was really surprised. Like I kind of wrote, after finding that out, I wrote CJ off from the Texans. And I thought, okay, this is Will Anderson for sure. And so when they traded for him, I was very surprised because I knew there was that lingering stuff there. But then in discussing all of it last year, I heard it was squashed. Like there was no issue. Bobby and him were good.
All right. I mean, there's a lot there. For sure. There's a hell of a lot there.
This is Will Anderson, said the Tyree Wilson mock draft guy.
Yeah. So there's a couple of things that I think on this. First of all,
let me do the college part of it first, and then I think you have the pro part of it handled. But the comment about
the college part, I think, is completely misrepresented as to what the actual dynamic was at Ohio State. Like, I think that was weirdly presented in a way in which, if you don't know the dynamic of Ohio State, you basically listen to it and think CJ Stroud's some asshole who basically says, I'm not going to talk to the offensive coordinator. I'm just going to do all things through Ryan Day. So I think that was very strange, especially given the dynamic of Ohio State. Like, Ryan Day is the quarterback coach, and Ryan Day calls plays at Ohio State. And he is the offensive coordinator. The actual offense, the title of offensive coordinator at that time was someone who was a tight end coach who was just by title. So if CJ Stroud's going through Ryan Day, it's not like he's asking him to be a middleman. It's literally the guy calling the plays that coaches his position. So that one didn't make a ton of sense.
Well, you kind of handled what I was going to say. I guess I'll add that the final 2 months of the season, multiple times CJ Stroud talked about how important it was to have played at Ohio State and how much he was thankful for having played for Ryan Day, who was his head coach and play caller, Corey Dennis, his quarterback's coach, who he's mentioned multiple times in his time and his tenure with the Texans, and Kevin Wilson, who was the offensive coordinator, and Brian Hartline, who is an offensive recruiting guru, wide receivers coach, and is now the co-offensive coordinator for Ohio State. So he has shouted out all the people that he didn't respect or didn't like. He shouted them out about how important it is and how grateful he is to have been coached. And I know he's mentioned Dennis more than a handful of times.
Yeah, he mentioned him after the Georgia game. He was the second name he mentioned. So that kind of seems a little bit weirdly presented, as if like there's some offensive coordinator and CJ's basically saying, hey, get out of here. You don't know ball. Like, I think if CJ communicated little with that guy, I don't think it's because he didn't think he knew ball. I think it's because Ryan Day was the quarterback coach, the offensive coordinator, and the guy that put together the game plan. I would say that.
Agreed.
Now, the other thing about it, and a lot of this stuff gets lost in translation sometimes, but I would be shocked if Bobby Slowik, it could happen, but if Bobby Slowik
bowed up to somebody
and cussed them out, and then it had to be separated. And same thing with CJ. I know CJ might not be one to back down, but I would be like, it on a scale of Bigfoot, UFOs, I would be somewhere in between like Bigfoot and UFOs if I saw Bobby Slowik cuss someone out and get in his face at the draft process, and him and CJ Stroud have to be separated. I would be not saying that Lance didn't hear that or anything like that, but that would be very shocking to me.
Agreed. And I don't see either of those parties acting like that.
Yeah. So I don't, that would be kind of surprising to me as well. The other thing is they seem to get along and they seem to squash it. So there's that. I look, some people say, well, why do you bring this up years down the line? Sometimes the people talk all that. I don't really care about that. But my whole thing is, let's pretend this is true. And on the chat, Christopher says, Lance brought that up 2 years ago. This is old news. Nate says, I don't fully believe the story, but I think there's some truth to it. Definitely dramatized for clicks. I don't know if he's trying to get clicks. It's not like he put that out there. I don't think Lance is like dying for clicks. Justin says, if Slowik was that much of a hard ass in that meeting, then that would be so dumb of him, being that he was a first-year OC. Yeah, like if that was Slowik's personality, don't you think he would have flexed on me at some point this year? Like, and at least just called me a dumbass or like made me feel like an idiot. Like I never saw Bobby Slowik doing that. But whatever, like draft tales happen. And I think this is the other part that needs to be mentioned. And I think this is just kind of having a grasp of how stuff was. I don't know who he's talking to, who Lance was talking to. He talks to a hell of a lot of people. I talked to someone as close to CJ Stroud's camp as you can possibly get, and he wanted to be in Houston. He didn't think he was going to be in Houston, but I even told you, and I was even talking about it on the air, they didn't think that. And that's why heading into the draft, I said, I don't think it's going to be Stroud, but they wanted it. Like, it was like a disappointing, like, man, I don't think we're going to be there, but they wanted it. So his whole crew didn't want him here. I don't know about that. I will say, though, there was kind of an interesting dynamic because his business guy and his agent were Deshaun's business guy and Deshaun's business agent. So there was kind of a known awkward, like, dynamic between CJ and Deshaun to where some people kind of speculated and wondered. And I think it was rational speculation that, granted that you had the same ownership, you have the same general manager, would CJ's agent who has Deshaun and CJ's business guy want him to go to Houston? The guy that I talked to that's pretty close said that he did. So that's just kind of like based on my own experience. I'm not saying that the story is or isn't true. And even if it is true, for me, it makes CJ look bad, not really Bobby Slowik. Like, and they both seem to get over it. But like, if Bobby Slowik is cussing and doing all that, and then they seem to have got over it, I think it makes CJ look worse. I don't believe the Ohio State thing, and I think it was very weirdly presented based on what the actual layout of the Ohio State situation is, that the tight end coach by title, and then the guy was to the side, and CJ was actually dealing with the quarterback coach and offensive coordinator and guy who called plays. Yeah. But even if it is true, I don't think it necessarily makes Bobby Slowik look bad. And a lot of this stuff gets lost in translation. It could be a matter of who are you talking to, who's telling it. The draft process can be intense. Maybe it can be magnified and stuff like that. So it just kind of matters. But there's a couple of things in there that I just found kind of interesting.
Yeah, I feel like it just seems like it's a story that made its way through a few different people and it got blown out of proportion.
Yeah.
Like, could I see Bobby Slowik and CJ Stroud having a spirited offensive conversation, and as that makes its way through four different people, it turned into they yelled at each other and they shoved each other, and Nick Caserio had to dive across the table to split them up. Like, okay.
The other thing that I've learned from like working in the market is a lot of times, like, and I can see people in the chat saying Seth kind of hinted at something at that as well. And then I guess Texans Cap said that a lot of times it's the same person telling all the people. Like, that's the other. Well, I heard that too. Well, it could be the same gossip telling the same story to everyone else. And it's not like you're hearing it from multiple people and connecting. And a lot of times when you hear it, you kind of try to mysteriously like make it sound like it's bigger than it is, but it's the same person that person was talking to, you know?
Yeah. I don't in any way, shape, or form buy the Ohio State part of that.
No, the Ohio State thing, it doesn't. The dynamic of Ohio State makes that weird. Like, why would he not work directly with Ryan Day when Ryan Day is calling the plays and Ryan Day is the quarterback coach? And everybody at Ohio State knows the other guy's a tight end coach and by title. Like, they did the same thing with Heartline. Chip Kelly, this was the first year that Ryan Day gave up play calling. And it was for Chip. So the Ohio State thing is that was, if you don't know CJ Stroud and you don't know the dynamic, like, you would listen to that and say, damn, what an asshole. So he doesn't even want to talk to the offensive coordinator because he doesn't know ball, and he wants to work directly with Ryan Day, who, oh, by the way, the layout of that is that you work directly with Ryan Day, literally like all of practice. Like, when the quarterbacks are practicing, Ryan Day is right there. Like, that's him. When he's calling plays, you're talking to Ryan Day. So that was the thing that I thought was a little bit interesting.
And if Lance Zierlein heard that story in the pre-draft process, don't you think the Texans would have heard it? And would you have drafted that guy?
Maybe.
If it was like,
maybe you could get it over with. Well, the other thing that has to be mentioned too is Lance was wrong on this. So like with the CJ thing, he was really kind of off on it, you know? Mm-hmm. So after the fact, you kind of justify why you were wrong on CJ. There could be that too.
Yeah.
Perhaps. I don't know. It's an interesting story. Lance talks to a lot of people. Whether it is true or not, I don't think it really necessarily matters too much. But There it is. And that was what a lot of people got on their timeline today. So there it is.
So we give the rumor 2 thumbs down.
I mean, I give the rumor
2 thumbs down from Cody on the rumor.
Yeah, I don't really know about all that.
Can you want to play a little game of in case you missed this?
Yeah, go ahead.
In case you missed this.
Aaron got it. Okay. Yeah. I saw Rap had it too. Aaron must have confirmed it.
I don't see confirm in there.
Oh, well, Aaron had it. Just happened to get it too. So yeah, that's that.
One thing I saw this in the chat, and as we're on the fly trying to do this, I think it was Sean that pointed this out. Thad Lewis, also a quarterback for Chip Kelly in San Fran, by the way.
Okay, so there you go. So maybe this is step one in the Chip Kelly type of thing. So that could be it. There you go. Boom.
Hey, look, if that's the road they want to go down, and I'd be happy to be wrong that Chip Kelly didn't want to go to the NFL, and that would mean Chip Kelly's about to be a very rich man.
Yeah, $3 million probably.
Well, yeah, 3, maybe more, because the highest paid coordinator in football was supposed to be Todd Monken, and he got a new contract. So
the other thing about Chip Kelly, you can make a case that despite the fact he has the most impressive coaching resume, and a large majority of that has to do with age, obviously, he's been around longer, but even then it's pretty impressive. All he's done, he's probably the least likely to leave.
Yeah.
It's kind of weird, where the guy who has the most impressive resume, coaching wise, is also the least likely to leave and probably the most content in just calling plays and not really wanting to be a head coach anymore.
Do you think Caserio likes him a little bit less because he's fat?
Or
is it just ball? I can respect it.
I don't know. I feel like Caserio's gotten along with fat coaches before. The Texans don't have a lot of fat coaches, though. I don't think D'Amico cares.
Well, I mean, you had Kiffin's brother here for 1 year, and then he's gone. They replaced him with an old fit guy in Bill Davis.
Yeah. Someone asked, did Lance mock Tyree Wilson to the Texans? Maybe, not sure. Yes. I don't remember that. He did. Okay. Yeah, I don't know. I did. The person I talked to said that he did not think he was going to be here, but it wasn't that he didn't want to. He wanted CJ here bad.
Yeah,
bad.
The CJ, along with lots of other people, believed that Will Anderson was certainly going to be a member of the Houston Texans. CJ just didn't think it was going to be him and Will Anderson.
Caleb Daniels asks, thoughts on Ted Ginn Jr.'s NFL career, bust or just wasn't used right? This is my type of super chat.
Don't you think he would be awesome if he had come along 10 years later? I feel like there were too many dumb coaches.
I don't know, man. He got kind of in a weird spot because the Dolphins took him, 7 overall? It was Cam Cleveland, and Cam Cleveland basically sold him as a punt returner. I know Ted Ginn's dad's like a legend. He actually recovered nicely for himself. I don't know. I always thought Ted Ginn Jr. was going to be just such a freakishly dynamic player, although I thought Tavon Austin would be too. Maybe those guys are just kind of a slightly ahead of their time. Maybe there's that.
That's what I feel like. I feel like if they were just 10 years behind when they got into the NFL, they'd have been a bit more welcomed. Give Sean McVay prime Ted Ginn. I bet you could get a 1,000-yard receiver.
Yeah, Ted was awesome, man. I remember when they completely smoked Notre Dame. Wasn't that the AJ Hawk Brady Quinn Bowl?
Was it where they had the
half jersey? She's married to AJ now.
The half jersey.
Yeah, she had the half jersey, and she was on TV the whole time. Interesting question about Ted Ginn. Very much appreciated. Those are the type of conversations that we very much enjoy. So there is that. So again, the offensive coordinator search continues. Maybe the Chip Kelly dream did increase based on the breaking news we had. The CJ Stroud tale, interesting, kind of. Some parts, a lot of those parts are kind of hard to believe. So there's that. And here we go for another interview. Hopefully tomorrow we figure something new.
So it's always interesting to me, like when did this interview occur? Was this like late last night and the news gets out today? Did they get done on the practice field today at the Senior Bowl and they get to the command center here in Mobile and they're like, all right, let's talk to Thad Lewis. Let's see what he's doing. And maybe I'm too nerdy about this and like I'm the only person that cares about like the specifics and like the intricacies of like how the interview gets done. But I am interested, like, did they do both their interviews yesterday and then come to Mobile? Like, did they PJ? Did they, here's a fun story.
Zoom? A little Zoom interview?
Zoom. Was it Zoom? Yeah. Cause like the Buccaneers made it very clear that they Zoomed Nick Caley. I was talking to a friend of mine who works at Fantasy Points and one of his colleagues was on an overbooked flight coming out of Charlotte. And they're like, sir, would you be willing to give up your seat? We've overbooked this, and okay, well, like, who's the last guy? Like this gentleman got the last seat, can we get you on a different flight? Dave Canales flying regular last flight out of Charlotte to Mobile.
Beast.
Dave Canales on a regular average Joe flight out of Charlotte to get to Mobile, Alabama.
Beast mode, man. Respect to Dave Canales. Did a decent job this year. There was some progress. The most important reason he was brought there, a little bit of progress.
D'Amico and Dave Canales had a couple of conversations today over on the sideline at the Senior Bowl.
I'm just imagining CJ Stroud and Bobby Slowik getting in such an argument that they have to be separated.
Slowik's a little guy too. Like, I mean, CJ would tower over him.
What do you think? Like, if you were power ranking guys likely to fight,
it's not a run pass option. It's like, shut up.
Where does Bobby Slowik rank in the? We have to separate these guys. Even CJ, like CJ might be emotional. Is CJ just going to have to be separated from someone because they tell him it's not Ohio State? That seems like the most random fight combination of all time. Like, I think if there were a parlay, like with traditional betting odds, and it was like these two guys are going to squab, and it was CJ and Bobby Slowik. Like, I would that parlay would probably pay like 60,000 to 1.
Yeah.
Like you could probably win like $1 million by putting $20 on that parlay. Bobby Slowik and CJ Stroud, nose to nose, having a fight. Like, with all the intense moments that the Texans had this year, did you ever see CJ Stroud mad at Bobby Slowik?
Bobby standing on a milk crate to get nose to nose. Oh man, yeah. I just can't. I can't see that.
Nose to nose. It had to be broken up.
I mean, like in a game where like something's not going right, and they're like, we got to do this, and it's like, well, that guy's got to like maybe like animated, but a pre-draft interview and they're getting in a fight? Nah.
I mean, there might have been like a disagreement, and I think in Lost in Translation, who knows? Maybe you're talking to like, I don't know. Who knows? Could be interesting.
Yeah, I think the game of telephone.
The telephone game for draft folks has got to be crazy for sure.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, we'll see how it goes. Appreciate everyone for coming through. We're still on the journey of finding an OC. Cody's on the journey of finding prospects out there in Alabama. And CJ Stroud, he's just trying to chill. Like, my man's trying to hang out and chill, and this stuff is getting thrown out there. I mean, he's trying to stay out of the spotlight, and all of a sudden there's tales that he tried to fight poor little Bobby Slowik. I mean,
damn it, Bobby.
Bobby just can't win. And Bobby's trying to get back in the NFL. And apparently he's nose to nose with people at the draft, just trying to fight.
Shout out to Sean for the AI Bobby Slowik, CJ Stroud fight pick. Put this on a poster.
Where is this?
Sean tweeted it to us.
Oh my God.
Job. That's great job. See, look how mad Bobby is. Oh, AI did a good job on this one. I don't know why they're both wearing visors, but AI did a good job. Well done, Sean. Well done.
Oh my God, that is elite. Subscribe, like, right along. Always remember, when it comes to this Texan stuff, we're all in it together.
Eat good, sleep good, be good. Don't play the game of telephone. We'll talk Texans again soon. Thanks for watching, everybody.